Yeah, we living in a world where the rules don't apply. They say we gotta follow, but we're ready to fly. The system got us boxed in, trying to keep us small. But we rise like the phoenix, we ain't scared to brawl. They feeding us lies, but we see through the smoke. We're the voice of the people, we're ready to provoke. They want us to divide, but we're stronger as one. Breaking chains, sticking names, yeah, we getting it done. It's us versus the system, we're breaking the mold. Fist in the air, yeah, we taking control. No more silence, no more fear. Together we rise, let them know we're here. Riders ignite. In the world of division, they showed us how to share. But the weight of our sorrows, they never taught us to bear. We split our joys and laughter, but the pain remained untold. A burden we carry alone, a story left untold. They taught us to split everything, but not the heavy pain. He lingers in the shadows, a darkness we can't explain. We're left with shattered pieces, trying to mend what's lost. They taught us how to split everything, but not the heavy cost. We learned to divide our dreams and multiply our fears, but the ache in our hearts only grew with passing years. They gave us all the answers, except how to heal. The scars that run so deep, wounds that time can't seal. Yeah, they taught us how to share, but only the good. Smiles and laughter like we understood. But deep down inside, there's a storm we hide. Pain in our hearts, we're just trying to ride. Put on a mask, yeah, we play the part, but nobody sees the cracks in the hearts. We share our dreams, the highs and the lows, but when it comes to hurt, we just close the doors. We share the fun times, deflect the pain, laughing in the sunshine, dancing in the rain. But the shadows linger, they creep and they crawl, breaking us down, but we don't share it all. We got hate in our hearts, but we keep concealed. Taught to share the joy, but wounds, they stay unhealed. They say love was easy to divide, but the heartache never subsides. We tried to split everything into two, but the pain lingers strong and true. Shared our dreams, divided our fears, but the sorrow remained through the years. No matter how we tried to let go, the weight of our suffering continued to grow. Now we're apart trying to heal, but some wounds are too deep to conceal. They said splitting up will set us free, yet the pain lingers in you and me. In a world where rules are set in stone, the system's grip tightens, we're not alone. Bound by chains of injustice greed, against the odds we fight to be free. Mighty forces try to keep us down, but our spirits rise, refusing to drown. Defying norms, breaking through the mold. In this battle of wills, our story is told. As the clash continues day by day, we stand united, come what may. For in this world where rules don't apply, our strength and unity will never die. They try to silence our dreams, but we're loud and clear. With every step forward, conquering fear. They can't hold us back. We're the fire and the flame in this battle for freedom. We're all in the game. They say it's just a game, but we're playing for keeps. With the strength of the many, we're shattered elites. No more puppets on strings, we're cutting the ties. With our eyes on the prize, we're reaching for the skies. So let's stand together, let's break down the walls. In this fight for our future, we'll answer the calls. From the ashes, we'll rise like a storm. Riders ignite. It's us versus the system, and we're ready to fight. They building walls, but we're digging tunnels. With every step we take, we're shaking their bundles. From the streets to the courts, we're raising our voice. In a world full of noise, we're making the choice. They want to keep us blind, but we see the light. Knowledge is power, and we're ready to fight. From the corners of the city to the halls of the state, where the heartbeat of the struggle can't afford to wait. It's us versus the system, we're breaking the mold. It's in the air, yeah, we're taking control. No more silence, no more fear. Together we rise, let them know we're here. Riders ignite. They taught us to split everything, but not the heavy pain. It lingers in the shadows, a darkness we can't explain. We're left with shattered pieces, trying to mend what's lost. They taught us how to split everything, but not the heavy cost. Now we stand here broken, searching for some light, hoping for a way out of this never-ending night. But through it all, we find strength in each other's embrace. Together we'll face tomorrow and find solace in this space. They say don't bring the drama, keep it all light. But every night I'm fighting these demons in sight. Whispers in my mind, yeah, they echo when they shout. While I'm smiling on the surface, I'm breaking without. We're sharing the laughter, but what's underneath? A battlefield of sorrow, a war with no peace. We're warriors in silence, but nobody knows how the pain that we carry just grows and it grows. In a world of lessons learned, they taught us how to stand and burn. But the scars we hide deep inside are the ones that never subside. We followed all the rules they made, but the emptiness never fades. Their wounds like knives, cutting through even wounds that always grew. They painted pictures of success, but couldn't fix what's left from us. Now we're left to bear the strain of the pain that lingers, never wanes. It's us versus the system, we're breaking the mold. It's in the air, yeah, we're taking control. No more silence, no more fear. Together we rise, let them know we're here. Riders ignite. So remember this moment, remember this face, remember this sound. We're the voice of the future, and we won't back down in the face of
Damn, my John was on mute, man. Hey, what up, everybody? I hope all of y'all is having a blessed and humble afternoon. Evening. Continue to have a blessed and humble day. This y'all, shorty Rachel. Let me welcome y'all to the Writers for Life brings you the Let's Talk About It podcast. All right. Today, listen, man. Let's dive down. Let's dive down some rabbit holes. Let's learn some of the history of Philadelphia. All right. Off my chest and into the mic, a shorty speaks her mind. Listen, this is part two. Hey, we did part one. For part one, make sure y'all go check out our previous lives. All right, y'all. Gather in, settle down, all right? Because down the rabbit hole we go again. All right. This is part two of our journey into the real, how can I say, unfiltered history of Philadelphia. And if you were here the last time, you already know, we don't, how can I say, we don't go the watered down school textbook version. All right. We go straight into, how can I say, the contradictions, the chaos, the brilliance, all right, in the mess that shaped this city of Philadelphia. All right. Philadelphia, how can I say, is not like any, how can I say, any other U.S. city. And that's not just a cute slogan, right? It's a fact rooted in how this place was built, who built it, and what they were running from or running towards. So today we're picking up where we left off and we're diving deeper into, the shadows, the myths, and the uncomfortable truths that still echo through Philly streets. All right. Last time we talked about why Philadelphia is the opposite of every other American city, right? The grid, the planning, the philosophy, the stubbornness, the diversity, the contradictions. We talked about how Philly was designed to be, a green country town, a place where people could breathe, think, and live without, how can I say, the overcrowded chaos of European cities, right? But we also talked about how that, how can I say, that ideal didn't always match the reality, because ideals, how can I say, are cute, but people bring their baggage, right? Their bias, their ambitions, and their contradictions with them, right? And Philly has always been a magnet for people who don't fit neatly into the box, right? The rebels, the dreamers, the fighters, the outsiders, the innovators, the ones who refuse to shut up or sit down. Blessings to those coming in. How y'all doing? I hope y'all enjoy the stream. All right. But listen, and that right there brings us back to William Penn, right? The man whose statue sits on top of a city hall, right? Looking down on all of us like the city's eternal, how can I say, overseer. But who was he really, right? Not the sanitized version, right? Not the founding father, right? How can I say, the caricature, right? I'm talking about the real human being, a radical Quaker who challenged the crown, a political prisoner who spent time locked up for his beliefs, a visionary city planner who imagined a new kind of society, and yes, an absent landlord and a slaveholder. See, people love to celebrate the parts of history that feel good, but they skip the parts that make them uncomfortable. But we don't do that here, all right? We talk about the whole person, the whole truth, the whole impact, because you can't understand the city if you don't look at the, pretty parts. All right? And that leaves us with this, right? Penn lived in a time of, how can I say, uphill, religious conflict, political instability, shifting empires, and a world that was trying, how can I say, to reinvent itself. And he was right in the middle of it. All right. His ideas were bold: religious freedom, how can I say, fair trials, elected representation, and a city built on order instead of chaos. But his actions didn't always match those ideas. All right. That's the part people don't like to talk about. How can someone preach equality and still own enslaved people? How can someone design a city for peace and still leave behind systems that created division? That's the shadow we're talking about. The shadow that, stretches from the 1600s straight into the present day today. All right. And That's why this installment of Philadelphia, the Great Experiment, hits so hard, right? Because it forces us to, ask, what does it mean to live in Penn shadows? What does it mean to, walk through a city built on both vision and contradiction? What does it mean to inherit a place where the ideals were revolutionary, but the execution was flawed? Philly is a city that, has always been wrestling with itself, its identity, its values, its history, its future. And if you live here, you feel that tension every day. All right. It's the architecture of the neighborhoods, the politics, the culture, the pride, the pain, and the resilience. All right. But here's the thing. All right. Understanding this history isn't about tearing down or glorifying anybody. It's about clarity. It's about accountability. It's about knowing the foundation so we can understand the cracks. Because when you know the truth, the full truth, you can see the patterns. You can see how the same contradictions Penn carried still show up in our systems today. You see how the same ideals he preached are still being fought for by the people. And you can see how Philly's spirit, all right, that loud, gritty, stubborn, brilliant spirit was born from a mix of hope and hypocrisy, vision and conflicts, right? Dreams and reality. But y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, all right? We're just diving down rabbit holes, all right? Learning history, all right? Giving our opinion, giving our input. And if we, know something that is not the way it is, man, listen, we've all visited the the museums in Philadelphia, all right? We've all, read different types of history in Philadelphia. I mean, I could just keep going, right? But today, we go deeper down, this rabbit hole. I want y'all to listen with open minds and open hearts, not to judge the past, but to understand how it shaped the present, not to excuse the contradiction, but to recognize them so we can break the cycles. Philly is a city, of survivors, builders, fighters, truth tellers. And if we're going to honor this city, we have to honor, how can I say, its full story. All right, the light and the shadow, because only then can we decide what kind of future we're building on top of it. All right, so buckle up because part 2 is just beginning. We're going deeper. All right, we're getting louder and we're telling the truth, Philly style. All right, so welcome to Philly, baby. Listen, we talk about so many leaders. We talk about so many things that happen, not just here in Philly, but in other places, right? But here in Philadelphia, right, people have debates and arguments, right? And I've seen this shit go so left sometimes here in Philly, right? That, people here in Philadelphia were never here, were never born here, all right? They came, all right, in slave ships, shackled up in chains, which is not really true, all right? A lot of people, that are here today, descendants that are living here in Philadelphia and in any other city, right? What y'all fail to realize, y'all are descendants. Y'all ancestors came from here, right? A lot of us have ancestors that are from Philadelphia. It's crazy as shit, but it's the truth. All right. Now, Philadelphia has two types. We have two types of ancestors here in Philadelphia. The ones that were born in here, the ones that were born here in Philadelphia. You see where I'm coming from, and the ones that came in ships and in chains. All right. But the ones born here in Philadelphia were not in chains until after the fact. All right. But this was their land, theirs. But people don't want to talk about the indigenous people that were here in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania. Let's put it like that. Because speaking on, going down the history of Philadelphia, we're going to go down the history of Pennsylvania. All right. It's all attached. So, put this. All right, y'all. Since we've already peeled back the layers of William Penn's shadow, all right, let's keep, how can I say, sliding deeper down this rabbit hole and talk about the next giant, who shaped Philly, Benjamin Franklin, all right? And we talked about him last week. I mean, the last time we spoke about the history of Philadelphia, all right? Now, listen, people love to talk about Franklin like, he popped out the womb a genius with a kite and a key. But that's not the truth. Franklin didn't arrive in Philadelphia as a legend. He came here as a runaway, a fugitive, all right? How can I say? an indentured servant, all right, broke, hungry, and looking for a second chance. And that right there tells you something about this city. Philadelphia has, how can I say, always been a place where people, how can I say, reinvent themselves, where the underdog can flip the script, where someone with nothing, where someone with nothing but grit and ideas can carve out a legacy. But the question is, but the question we're asking today is deeper. How did Penn's city shape Franklin into the first American, right? And Pete, how everybody that we're naming was never from Pennsylvania, all right? They just came and took, like on some mob type shit, mafia type shit, right? See, Franklin didn't just land in a city, he landed in a place built on ideals, right? Religious freedom, civic order, community responsibility, even if those ideals were messy and imperfect, right? In practice, Philly was a laboratory, right? A social experiment, a place where people were trying to build something new. In Franklin, he absorbed, how can I say it? He absorbed all that. He saw the contradictions, the opportunities, the gaps, the potential, right? He saw a city that needed printers, thinkers, organizers, problem solvers, and he stepped right into that space. He became a leader of craftsmen, right? A civic and, how can I say, innovator, a media pioneer, a politician, and eventually, the engine behind what could become America's greatest enlightening, all right, and how can I say, enlightened city. But none of that happened, how can I say, in a vacuum. It happened because Philadelphia was the kind of place that pushed him, challenged him, and gave him, room to grow. All right, but let's not romanticize, all right, about that. Because while Franklin was rising, while he was building, how can I say, liberals, how can I say, fire companies, newspapers, and civic, how can I say, institutions, there was another truth running underneath the city's prosperity, all right? Slavery, love, how can I say, slavery. People love to talk about Franklin's brilliance, but they skip the part where Philadelphia's wealth and stability and growth were tied to enslaved labor. And that's where, Samson's story comes in, all right? And we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. So we're going to pull up a video, all right? Because we're about to, hit about this. We're about to touch on the story about Benjamin Franklin, right? Samson, enslaved to Governor James Logan, didn't just accept his fate. He struck out for freedom. His resistance forced the city's Quaker power brokers, right? The same people preaching peace resistance. How can I say? The same people preaching peace and equality, right? To confront the great evil of their time. And that tension, that hypocrisy, that moral conflict is part of Philly's story too. You can't talk about Franklin's spark without acknowledging the fire, right, that was burning beneath the surface. All right. So with all that out the way, oh Lord, it seems like we're gonna be having trolls on this job today. I don't know what's up with this. It seems like we're gonna be having some trolls today. Could it be this? Yeah, I think it's because of that. That's why that job is glitching. But listen, let's dive into these videos real quick, all right? Am I on the right channel? Nope, let's switch this around. We're going right to the premium because listen, man, I hate ads, yo, with a passion. All right, so let's dive down, all right, this rabbit hole and learn some of the history of Philadelphia. And we welcome everybody to part 2. All right, in order to understand this live, you have to go catch part 1.
We live today in his information age. But long before our signals crossed the oceans, there were the printing presses of a burgeoning city.
We celebrate his birthday as 1706. The truth is that he was born in 1723 when he came to Philadelphia. That was the only place that he could have been Ben Franklin.
Franklin is one of 1,000 people who come to Philadelphia every year in the 1720s. Captives, refugees, runaways.
Everyone had this idea that once you arrived in Philadelphia, it was a new canvas, the place to ask, what does freedom really mean for everyone?
So imagine it's 1723 and you've arrived here. You're essentially running away from Boston. You're dirty, you're hungry, you don't have money. You don't know where you're going or what you're going to do.
If you're Benjamin Franklin, age 17, you arrive desperately poor, a fugitive indentured servant, a printer's apprentice, a searching soul.
When he was in Boston, it was a city that was almost 100 years old, and it had layers and layers of heavy authority. Philadelphia is brand new. It's barely a generation old.
In North America, Philadelphia is the biggest city, and yet it's only 2 blocks wide.
The word backwater comes to mind.
Yeah, man. They keep saying it's the biggest city, but I thought, well, he said it north. But aren't we considered Eastern? Right? Aren't we considered like to be on the Eastern? He said north. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping. Right? It's like down south, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's Texas, right?
In North America, Philadelphia is the biggest city, and yet it's only 2 blocks wide.
But wait, I'm confused. He just said North America. See, I hate going into that. That right there, he didn't mean it. I mean, I thought like I guess all the cities and states are not in North America, West America, South America.
The word backwater comes to mind. There was a lot of raw commerce, around 10,000 people, but people thought that Philadelphia could become more.
5 years after the death of the city's founder, William Penn, the chaotic port teems with immigrants from 3 continents.
Population is growing unstoppably. It's a natural home for all kinds of ambitious people.
All kinds of entrepreneurs, self-promoters. These people all thrown together, competed with each other, fought with each other.
You have gangs, you have pickpockets, visitors who are scared to be here.
Yo, see, I know I'm not tripping, man. Like they behave like mafia. And what's crazy is right from the presidents to the people that, you know, came and took over the country, they're all immigrants. This is the crazy part. And it's like every time I hear Trump talk about you immigrants don't belong here in my country or anybody else, right? I'll be like, well, the immigrants were the ones that took over the country. But you know what? I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Topic for another live. Let's continue with this. We're speaking about Philadelphia, right? Yeah, we're talking about Philadelphia. Not, you know, how can I say North America or East America? Let's continue.
You have gangs, you have pickpockets, visitors who are scared to be here.
There's no police force.
There's never actually any plan for a municipal government at any point.
We have an unpaid citizens watch. How effective are they?
Diseases were rampant. Life could be and often was short.
Poverty and wealth live around the corner from each other.
It's amazing people are not dropping dead more often.
All kinds of needs are not being met.
You don't trust the water, so you drink alcohol.
Children drank at breakfast. When you wanted to throw something away, you open your front door.
Did he just say children drink at breakfast? Hold the fuck. Wait a minute.
Being dead more often.
All kinds of needs are not being met.
You don't trust the water, so you drink alcohol.
Children drank at breakfast.
He said children drink at breakfast. Now, I doubt anybody from this era is going to be alive. But listen, if anybody remember their grandparents' stories, right? At any given time that any of y'all grandparents tell y'all or great grandparents tell y'all that, you know, that children back in the 1700s drank alcohol as water for breakfast. Children were getting freaking lit, crunked up back in the 1700s for breakfast. Yo.
When you wanted to throw something away, you open your front door and throw it in the street. The city's a mess.
I mean, we still do that. But how the hell she get mud from inside her house to throw that joint in the pavement? Where the mud come from?
And there's not a whole lot in the way of what you might call civic spirit.
That's the Philadelphia that Franklin came into.
"5 years after Franklin arrives, another man enters Philadelphia's port. His name stripped away, his body sold to James Logan, the governor of Pennsylvania. Logan calls him Samson.
It's quite obvious that Samson was not his.
It's crazy. You see, I mean, did they do that? Listen, all right. See, I have family that was born in Philadelphia, right? That, you know, they have ancestors that were born here. But I personally was born in Puerto Rico, right? My mom brought me here as a baby. She had my brother here, and I was raised in Philadelphia. Now, anybody that was born and raised in Philadelphia, right? I just need to know what they just said is true.
Throw it in the street. The city's a mess.
And there's not a whole lot in the way of what you might call civic spirit.
That's the Philadelphia that Franklin came into.
"5 years after Franklin arrives, another man enters Philadelphia's port. His name stripped away, his body sold to James Logan."
All right, now you heard how when they brought the slaves in, right? Like Samson, they stripped their names and they gave them a name. Now, if you're originally born in Pennsylvania, if your ancestors are from Pennsylvania, did they do the same thing to, you know, the people that were here and were enslaved? Did they strip their names away too and give them other names? Was it the same? See, reason I'm asking this because people confuse, all right, the people that were born here and turned into slaves to the people that came here in boats, right? They were bought here in boats, right? And chained up. And let's not forget that people also came in boats that wasn't chained either. A lot of people ran, right, and hid. But listen. This country, all right, was built on the indigenous people that lived here. Then the immigrants that were brought here. And together, all right, they built this country. It's crazy, man.
The governor of Pennsylvania. Logan calls him Samson.
It's quite obvious that Samson was not his name.
Africans were transformed by that experience during enslavement, taking their names away from them, preventing them from speaking their language.
Your whole identity became constructed for you by the person who owns you. But who owns your body and your spirit?
Force compels Samson to labor day and night in service of the most powerful man in the colony.
James Logan was William Penn's agent running Pennsylvania for the Penn family.
Logan's held every office imaginable, usually at the same time. He was the land office, justice of the court, he's a member of the council.
From his plantation at Stenton, north of the city, Logan plans to turn Pennsylvania's frontier into agricultural gold. Profits that will make Philadelphia rich. But a wealthy city must think for itself.
Logan is the great intellectual of his generation, anywhere in the colonies.
He collects the largest private library in North America. More than 3,000 books. He shares them with botanist John Bartram and mathematician Thomas Godfrey.
It was like the internet. of the 18th century, except it's all owned by one person. And not only did he control it, he decided who was going to have access to it.
Damn. That was like the internet. The books back then was like, oh yeah. I mean, they still is on some real shit. Because push come to shove, man, I don't see why they want to take down these libraries, yo. All these antique books and everything with all the information that they have. See, online, they could twist the shit up. They could erase it, add to it, take away from it. But these books, they would have to remake them over and over and over again. Online, it's just easy. Erase and redo. That's why I'm glad I got all these old books here. The old dictionary, all the old encyclopedias. Shoot.
More than 3,000 books. He shares them with botanist John Bartram and mathematician Thomas Godfrey.
It was like the internet of the 18th century, except it's all owned by one person. And not only did he control it, he decided who was going to have access to it.
Benjamin Franklin resented authority and just thought that there ought to be merit that decided things, and not birth, and not privilege, and not wealth.
On his first day in the city, Franklin encounters the hard-working Deborah Reed, who assists in her father's carpentry business on Market Street. They form a working partnership as she introduces the ambitious printer to the wide-open city she knows so well.
She had a lot of spunk and guts about her. She
introduces the printer, but who invented the printer? It sure as hell wasn't her.
understood Philadelphia society. She understood Philadelphia politics. She's managing some of his accounts. And she's even doing things like selling salves and other medical supplies out of their printing office.
Philadelphia provided economic independence for women, together with a Quaker belief in equality that creates the space for people to innovate. And that's what you see in Philadelphia.
But angry workers are fed up with the overcrowded and filthy streets.
I just want to put something out, right? That I feel as though like a lot of people, they don't talk about it, don't want to talk about it. But they say, you know, I don't know when it did change. We might get there somewhere along the dives in these rabbit holes, right? But somewhere along the line between the 16 and the 1700s, women has some independence. They were able to work, make money. Shit, I mean, there was a point in time, which president's wife took over, right? And she ran the country for a couple months when he passed away. He had a heart attack. I can't remember which president it was. But anyways, I'm told so much that there was never a point in time that women were independent, that they couldn't do things on their own, that they had to do what their man said, or their husband, or their boyfriend, mostly their husband or boyfriend.
In 1726, a mob riots at the market and sets fire to the city's pillories and stockades. Franklin seeks another way.
Franklin was grand in his imagination that you could make a miserable, dirty, dangerous city a better place.
He organizes a dozen working men into a civic force called the Junto.
He's saying, here's a problem, it must be addressed. Let's do it ourselves.
Benjamin Franklin is a planet. He draws everything towards him. He loves being the center of attention.
Franklin really was an excitement junkie. He enjoyed the bonhomie of his friends at the Indian Head Tavern. With the Junto, these men are talking about ideas.
They help each other, they network for each other, and promote each other's businesses at every turn.
The city's problems compel the Junto to turn their focus to Philadelphia itself, plagued by the scourge of house fires. When fire breaks out, residents must form a human chain to pass buckets while the city burns.
The fire department, how it was back. That's why they came up with these fire trucks and stuff. It's crazy. They had to line up, like if they was in school getting ready to go to lunch or recess or something, or getting ready to leave. It's time to, go home. Gotta get in a straight line and exit out. And they all had to, use these buckets to turn off the fire. Who was it that came up with the idea? We need a fire department. I forgot. Wasn't it Benjamin Franklin? It probably was his ass.
How can they do better?
What is a way for us to diminish the risk of fire spreading from one building to another?
The junto organizes the first volunteer fire company
Who?
in the British colonies, the first insurance company to protect their home.
The Philadelphia contribution ship from loss by fire. Oh, it wasn't even called the fire department yet. Damn. It was called the Philadelphia contribution ship for the inferring of hofis from loss by fire. Okay. And they founded this in 1752.
And a town watch, the first insurance company to protect their homes. And a town watch.
If there was a better way to do it, then Franklin was interested in finding that better way.
How can I light a street better? How can I make the sanitation better? How can I take all the offal and the waste and drive it away so that there's less stench and people will walk on the streets?
They needed to do more to learn more.
James Logan specifically mentored was a foundation for a lot of learning that would take place in Philadelphia.
Franklin really wanted to get hold of that library.
James Logan agrees to help the junto create another first, a public library. But Franklin wants more.
Benjamin Franklin taught himself to read late at night using the light of a candle. He is motivated to make sure that literacy happens in Philadelphia.
When Franklin seizes ownership of Philadelphia's largest newspaper, the Pennsylvania Gazette, he outsmarts his rivals and builds a platform for his voice.
The newspaper gives him the ability to turn information that he's receiving into print and then distribute it across the colonies.
Franklin created an information age.
Creating more literate people means creating customers for himself. He's very shrewd.
Not only did he publish the paper here, but up and down the eastern seaboard, down into the Caribbean. Franklin.
He said up and down the eastern. Oh yeah, see, that's all here, all Pennsylvania, and what else is part of the eastern side? You got the south, right? The north. And even though I'm in North Philadelphia, we're still not part of North, right? Like we still consider the eastern. Damn, and all the way towards the Caribbean. This mofo. So wait. Hold. Because I don't know if they're gonna say it. Was Benjamin Franklin really the first inventor of the newspaper? Was Benjamin Franklin really the first inventor of the newspaper? Bitch ass Gemini fucking with me today, huh? The ancient Romans was. Whoa, they had newspapers in 59 BC? But Franklin was a pivotal figure who made colonial. Okay. So they used the newspaper back in Roman times. But Franklin was the one who made it really happen. Oh. He was the first one to create the Pennsylvania Gazette. It made newspaper famous all over the world. Oh. It's crazy. What makes people forget throughout time that at one point what the idea they thought of existed? I mean, I don't know if I make sense on that. It's like shit existed before someone invented it, right? But they don't even know that. And then boom, later on we find out that at one point in time, that already existed. You wasn't really the inventor of it. You just made it famous. Let's get back.
Franklin's opinions. Not only did he publish the paper here, but up and down the eastern seaboard, down into the Caribbean. Franklin's opinions were known far and wide.
It's the first media empire in the New World. But everywhere, Franklin profits heavily from printing advertisements for the sale and capture of enslaved Africans.
History has been very kind to Benjamin Franklin, but when you think about what was happening in and around Philadelphia, particularly as it pertained to enslaved people, you wonder why he didn't speak out more.
But that also makes you think. All right, he put out there that he was the inventor, but did he really come up with the idea that somebody else remember what was done back then and then say, hey, look, if we do this, maybe we can gain this? You see, right? He stole the ideas. I'm telling you, because the hypocrisy in this shit is, right, Pennsylvania was created for, people to have equality, for, it was supposed to be a whole different vision of how it was up, in London and all them places over there, right, in Europe and all that. But yet, y'all own slaves. Y'all turned people that were free into slaves. The contradiction, the hypocrisy, but if we knew that a lot, if we know that a lot of the things that are invented today, that we're using today, that a lot of the technology, home supplies, cars, all that was really invented by, a black person at one point in time, right? Why do we keep giving credit to the people that, we know is cap, all right? We know that he made the idea famous, but in reality, behind closed doors, right? It could have been Samson or anybody else.
Franklin represents the enlightened men of Philadelphia. That is, he owned slaves.
And let's remember this. Slaves themselves were machines. That's a crude way to put it. But Quakers thought, if we forsake slavery, are we forsaking profit?
Despite their opposition to violence, Quakers profit handsomely by trading humans alongside sugar, coffee, and rum. From the auction block at Front and Market to what is now Washington Square, where African religions flourish, slavery lodges firmly in the bones of the city.
The economy of Philadelphia, just like a number of other economies throughout the South, was built and bred on the back of enslaved men.
At Stenton, Samson is desperate. But with more than 1,000 Africans enslaved in Philadelphia, he knows he'll never find freedom on James Logan's estate.
Fact.
While Samson runs, Logan plots to extend freedom for his people. He engineers a false land deal with Native Americans, a double cross known as the Walking Purchase.
What James
Oh shit. There was about to be war brewing in this John right here. He knew what he was doing. Damn, he said, I'm fuck this shit. I'm gonna be ahead of them. That was a boss move right there.
Logan did was hire runners to run a relay and steal as much land as they could.
They stole
The
that.
Lenape people living on the Walking Purchase land were forcibly
Oh, they stole that shit. Nope, never mind. No fucking boss move. That was a coward move. Fuck all that.
removed from their homes.
Millions of new acres now draw Irish, Scottish, Welsh, and German squatters in
So
search
Franklin
of
and Logan, right, the mayor at the time, did the same thing that was done to the Tainos in Puerto Rico. Well, throughout the whole Caribbean. They went, they took over the little land. Instead of negotiating like the ones did before, they just took it by force. But people want to cherish these. Listen, this is why I don't idolize them on some real shit. That they have some good ideas, yeah. But at the end of the day, guess what? They used our ancestors to come up with these ideas, to make these ideas happen.
religious freedom and fertile land.
The Port of Philadelphia sees ships
come in that are so stuffed full of people that you can't keep people away.
Pushed west, the Lenape and the Susquehannock fight for survival.
Indian tribes were staging attacks of various sorts against settlers.
There are accounts of a schoolhouse that someone's walking by and suddenly notices that there's no sound of people chanting their lessons and everybody's dead. These are attacks that were meant to terrify and did.
The terror turns to war. Settlers join the young Virginia Colonel George Washington in a bloody campaign to seize land from Native Americans and push their French enemies out of North America.
Pennsylvania avoided war longer than any of the other English colonies.
People in Philadelphia fear the French and Indian War because they imagine it is happening on their edge.
People in the countryside are convinced that people in the city do not understand what's going on. They want to get better publicity. So they take scalped, mutilated bodies of their own dead, put them in carts and bring them into Philadelphia. They make it real for them. Look at this. Look at what death looks like in a time of war.
Y'all don't notice that it's no different? History has not changed throughout time, yo. If anything, it's just dressed up differently, disguised differently, probably a little better. Just to, you know, how can I say, play in our faces for a little while until you wake up.
What does a government do if not protect its citizens?
For years, Franklin rages against Philadelphia's refusal to adopt military defenses.
The peculiar government of Pennsylvania, dominated by Quakers, is not about to spend money either arming troops or killing Indians.
The Quakers believed the settlers were a bunch of trouble with.
Man, the Quakers were a bunch of thugs, all right? If y'all missed part 1 of my live, go check it out so that y'all could see, you know, what the Quakers are about, all right? William Penn and all of them, all right? Go check out part 1. We talked about the Quakers, all right? What made Philadelphia, right? Well, let's say Pennsylvania different from other cities, all right? Including Texas, which is one of the biggest cities out there.
The Indians.
Franklin says the military bill isn't happening, the money spending isn't happening. Let's form a militia.
Franklin does what he does best. He gathers other leaders to pull together an all-volunteer force.
He personally leads it for a while, out on the frontier in the midst of attacking Indians and marauding settlers and all the rest.
He wants to create the notion of citizenship. And citizenship has responsibilities. That's what Franklin is up to.
When a house on Logan's plantation burns down, the governor suspects his escaped slave, Samson. He organizes deputies for a manhunt.
That's
The
just
hand of
crazy.
James Logan must have moved throughout Philadelphia. And Samson challenged that, this overwhelming desire to be free.
Damn. So the governor of Philadelphia, that governor, well, I mean, a lot of them do be trying to take shit. A lot of them let the power get to their head. But this motherfucker was running around like he owned the city. Wasn't there somebody above him? Who was it? Wasn't William Penn the one that came and built the city, made the negotiation, right, with the indigenous people who was on this land along with others? See, the Swedish and all that. There were people that made lands with the indigenous people that originally owned these lands here in Pennsylvania. But then here comes William Penn and, you know, all these other mofos from Europe and all these, the British colony and all this shit with their gunpowder and all. Listen, man. Motherfuckers, listen, they was acting like the mafia in the mob before the mafia in the mob was invented. On some real shit. History hasn't changed one bit. Tell me, like, if somebody could sit here and explain to me, right, or tell me, right, break it down to me how it has changed, I'll shut the fuck up. But in the meantime, in between time, right, I'm gonna keep putting this out there, right, so that we can all learn a little bit. All right. And if you think it's cap, like some of the things that I've called out, all right, throughout my lives, hey, you're welcome to say it too, man. I feel as though some shit is cap too. Like, I'm not going to sit here and, you know, get tired of saying that a lot of these motherfuckers are hypocritical contradictive mofos. There you go. Damn, I was about to get tongue twisted.
Can push up against anything, even the most powerful man in the city.
In the Wissahickon Woods, Sampson discovers an underground network of schools run by free blacks and Quakers.
Black Philadelphians, free and slave, live often in close contact with one another.
Free blacks recognize the importance of collaboration. You are only as free as your.
And I bet you those were the Moors. Will y'all mention them? Because we know that the Moors were also indigenous to this land. The Moors were the ones that saved the Taínos, you know, along with the West Africans. If they wouldn't have done that, guess what? The Taínos wouldn't exist in Puerto Rico the way they do, because they helped them. Like, listen, I could break it down, but I already did. All right. Listen, I'm focused on Philly. But if y'all missed, all right, how we broke down, you know, the history of the Taínos, the Moors, and the West Africans, man, go a little back into our lives, right? Probably like towards the beginning, and y'all will see us break all this down, right?
Neighbor was.
After days of chase, Logan's deputies haul Sampson before a special court. Franklin reports on the case, keeping it in the public eye.
Pennsylvania Gazette, September 1st, 1737. Monday last, Sampson the Negro Man had his trial. He made a long, artful, and pathetic defense. He was found guilty and received sentence of death.
Wow.
But the death sentence sparks a debate. James Logan brings the case before his governing council.
So when the Quakers are debating what to do about him, what they're really talking about is how to make sense of this whole question of slavery.
In other colonies, rebellions meet a brutal response, with scores of slaves massacred and burned at the stake.
Damn!
In Philadelphia, there were abolitionists, none more colorful than Benjamin Lay, who posted pamphlets all over the city railing against other Quakers' involvement in slavery and stormed into Quaker meeting houses.
With Logan's court debating Sampson's case, Lay disrupts the annual meeting of the Society of Friends. He drives a knife into a Bible where he has concealed a pouch of red dye. His point is not subtle. Philadelphia's elite have blood on their hands.
And listen, as crazy as this sounds, right? That's why I like watching Yaya. When Yaya speaks about the Bible and stuff like that, I love her, how can I say, her perspective on it, all right, her point of view. The same way that I love watching The Word, all right, Gary Bust It Down. There's a few other people that I've heard, you know, speak on it, right? The philosophy, and they also speak on it in a metaphor way, right? And it's crazy, right? Because, listen, this was given to us by the same people that enslaved our ancestors. But I don't like to speak too much on it because when we bring up the Bible, when we bring up, stuff like that, people get up all in their emotions, panties all in a bunch, all right? Egos bruised up, hearts all in pieces, all right? I'm not going to say broken, all right? Torn into pieces, because a heart's a muscle. It can't be broken, but it could probably get torn, all right? Into a whole bunch of pieces, right? And I'm not a babysitter, I'm not a therapist or a God, all right? And I'm sure it's not no one's mama to put my fucking titty, all right, my nipple in someone's mouth to keep them from fucking whining and crying. Real shit. But the Bible, like, a lot of people want to go by it, take it as a guide, as a reference, all right? Like, don't go into too hard what I'm saying, because I'm not going towards anybody's religion on some real shit. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, for me, I believe in God, nothing more, nothing less. The Bible, I use it the same way I use the history books, all right? And what's crazy is Bible and history books, to me, go hand in hand. Real shit, believe it or not.
They finally decide to banish Sampson out of the colonies. We don't know if the Quakers had helped him to get wherever he ended up being. He's heard from no more.
But Sampson has planted a seed. That same year, Benjamin Lay convinces Franklin to print a manifesto urging all Philadelphians to confront an evil so many support.
Quakers in Pennsylvania really wrestled with slavery. The ending of slavery took time. Everything with Quakerism takes time.
Spurred by a groundswell of protest, Quakers succumb. Now, they will excommunicate any member who holds a slave.
They changed their minds. So was it the good Quakers that did that, or was it the bad Quakers that did that? Blessings, blessings. We got Empress Lonnie One Love in the building. Make sure y'all go check her out. All right, great conversations, great topics. Yo, man, listen, Empress funny as shit. I ain't gonna sit here and lie. All right, she is funny as hell. But we're gonna have Billy, baby. Go ahead, baby. You want to say hi? Because I gotta continue, and you gotta go over there with the kids. Bye.
Hi.
Hi. Bye. I love you. I like your hair. It's so pretty. What's up? We got a problem? We beefing? What's up? What's up? Get out. Hey, my baby girl, man. I love my kids, y'all. They a pain in the ass, but I love them. I love them. Pain in the ass and all. All right.
Franklin's an urban man. He's a product of the city. He was always comfortable in the hardscrabble world of a city where civilization is best expressed.
Philadelphia becomes his laboratory. Franklin believes he can seize a lightning bolt and transform it into electricity.
What he does next with that information is what makes him a hero. He invents the lightning rod. Now, when the lightning comes down, your house does not burn. Your family is safe. And this is a revolution. This is progress.
Franklin noticed that in London they had.
But we know he didn't invent that shit, all right? They make it seem like it was him, but a motherfucker as hypocrite and as contradictive as these motherfuckers was, all right? They had slaves. We know who came up with the motherfucking idea. And we know who he used as a goddamn guinea pig, all right? On some real shit. See, these are the parts where I call cap, all right? Y'all keep making it seem like, all right, he came up, he did all this. No, he had slaves, all right? He used them. Get the fuck out of my face with that bullshit.
Had globe streetlights that quickly filled up with smoke. They gave off little light. Any little boy could throw a stone at them and break it. Franklin and his friends discovered that if they had a 4-pane glass light, it would be easier to replace the wick, easier to keep clean, harder to break the whole thing in one stroke.
And they were interested in meteorology, geology, electricity, botany, a thirst for knowledge.
In creating the bifocals to see near and far, and who better than Franklin to see near and far, that itself says something about him.
Franklin's ambition drives him to reinvent the whole city. In 1751, the year of James Logan's death, Philadelphians elect Franklin to the Pennsylvania Assembly.
Franklin takes over Logan's position as the broker, but a different sort of broker between the gentry and the working class. He has the confidence in the...
Yo, you know what's crazy? All right, we've only seen pictures of what the men's wigs looked like in the 16 and the 1700s, but I can't. They got these mofos out here with these curly mop head wigs on. Like, do they not notice that it looks like they took the damn wood piece or plastic piece off the mop and just put that bitch on their heads for wigs? That shit don't even look like a wig. Well, maybe I'm tripping, all right? But it's just the fact that all the Quakers, man, I mean, I know why they did it, all right? It's fucked up, all right? It was to hide, because they was getting bald due to, the chicken pox and all these other diseases that they, were having. But Lord have mercy, like, just embrace the beauty of your baldness. That's it. Like, shine that bitch every night. You would have found a shorty that liked you. But all y'all mofos back in the 60s, and you know what? Let me shut the fuck up. Men are doing it nowadays too. You can't tell that they got a toupee on their head until you slap the shit out of them for calling you a bitch. But anyway.
Trust of both sides, as few people ever have anywhere in American politics.
He is gaining the power to make his city London's rival, and himself its major player.
How do we run a society when the source of government is 3,000 miles away? How do we get things done?
Philadelphia moves from being a place that needs merchants, longshoremen, and sailors to being a place that also needs doctors and lawyers and teachers.
This work is Franklin's life. The result is a boom town, a school that will become the University of Pennsylvania, the nation's first hospital, Pennsylvania Hospital, a state capitol, what we know as Independence Hall, and the tallest building in North America, Christ Church, whose spire towers over the largest food market in the colonies.
Visitors who come to Philadelphia from England are stunned by the visible signs of wealth and flourishing.
Yeah, them churches be looking like they came from fucking London. I ain't gonna sit here and lie. Like they belong in Europe. All right. Like, and throughout time, they don't look like that. Man, them Jones look like listen, have y'all, I don't know if y'all visited them churches on the inside. I think we got a few of them like smaller, but not owned by them. I'm talking about Catholic churches. And it's crazy as shit how they got fucking money to make them Jones look like palaces, yo. I'm not gonna say it's like I haven't been to a Catholic church that looks ghetto as shit or fucked up like a regular Pentecostal or Christian or how I forget the religions right now. You know what? My head is everywhere. It's time to smoke. Let's continue. My head pounding. I don't know if it's the headphones, the brain. I think it's the pressure because I got pain from this damn back. That's all right. I'm a G. This Leo walked through fire. Fuck that. I could take this pain. Shit. Listen, man. You know what it is? I need a stretch. Listen. I've been stiff for 2 years. Fuck that, man. Double jointed and you can't. Yep, I can't do it today. I know it. Nope. That's crazy.
Philadelphia now is an enviably well-off, well-organized, attractive place.
Oh, shit, I got my
But violence on the frontier threatens to explode in the streets. Refugees pour in from French Canada and central Pennsylvania, seeking shelter.
The Native Americans themselves were never defeated. When they hear that France has capitulated and given all of their territory to the British, they are by no means willing to abide by that.
A peace treaty brings even less satisfaction to settlers in the Susquehanna River town of Paxton. They insist on total control over the land.
That's not even my headphones on. That's not even a peace treaty. Y'all just taking over. Y'all going in there like some big ass bullies, man, and just taking over.
And will wage total war to get it.
The Paxton Boys in 1763 savagely murdered a group of Christian Conestoga Indians living peacefully along the frontier. Their attack appears to be unprovoked.
It's a surprise attack. They kill women and children along with men. They burn the houses down. They mutilate and burn the bodies of the dead.
Ooh, they definitely the complete opposite of the mob and the mafia. So, I mean, I need to change it up because they're not, allegedly, according to the mob and the mafia, they don't kill women and children. These mofos did.
They scalp their victims. This is theatrical violence.
The Paxtons now take aim at Philadelphia. They march east, looking for the man who controls the presses.
Philadelphia is a kind of magnifying glass. This is the home of the one broadcast medium that they have. It's where you become visible.
When the news came, the city was in an uproar.
So who won?
Benjamin Franklin writes, describing the ways that Native people, their families, have been butchered.
He calls them Christian white savages. People in Philadelphia think that...
Did he say them Christian white savages? Hold up.
Franklin writes describing the ways that native people, their families, have been butchered.
He calls them Christian white savages.
Oh shit, he
People
did.
in Philadelphia think that they're coming there in order to kill all of the natives who are sheltering in the northern part of the city, and Quakers too.
The city shuts down. Ferrymen remove their boats from the river.
Franklin and other politicians from Philadelphia race out to Germantown to try and stop the Paxton boys before they arrive.
Oh shit, we had a war in the middle of Germantown here in the 1700s? Damn. I didn't know that shit. Well, obviously it looked different then, Ray. You just had a white girl moment. It's all right. Just take the air out your head. Hold up real quick. Where the fuck the pen? Oh no, man, I found some tweezers. Airhead no more. Rachel, welcome back. Damn.
Franklin's militia waits for Paxton emissaries in the woods outside Coleman's Tavern in Germantown.
They were angry. Too many kin, too many friends killed, and they wanted something done.
But his own militia spoils for a fight. They've seen enough of the Paxton menace.
Franklin is a pragmatist. He is trying to find a way forward through the morass.
Man, Franklin was a rebel. He ain't invent all that stuff. We know his slaves did, but this motherfucker let's say he was a rebel. He said, not in my city. Fuck that. We going to war.
Benjamin Franklin, the most brilliant negotiator in the Americas, quells the violence.
The Paxton boys demand that Native Americans be removed from Pennsylvania permanently.
Had they met with blank refusal, had they met with contempt, they would have gotten tens of thousands more for a march on Philadelphia.
Franklin promises to broadcast the Paxtons' demands. And as Philadelphia's presses roar with arguments about liberty and democracy, debate spreads to town squares from Williamsburg to Boston.
So this was in the city of, the War of Countries. This was a war in cities because Boston was here. This was what, Philadelphia. What other cities were here? Damn. So I'm guessing different leaders of different cities came at war with Philadelphia at one point in time. Jeez, Franklin, damn.
You can't talk about the history of Philadelphia without Benjamin Franklin. Who do we want to be as a people? What type of city do we want to have? How do we want to?
Dude, you ain't telling me we won the war of cities. How you skip that? I needed that knowledge for my brain cells. Like, what's up with you? How you gonna skip that whole part right there? Did he win the war of cities? Let's continue.
Have our contributions known to the rest of the world. Franklin used Philadelphia as a canvas in which to paint this.
Franklin made Philadelphia the central node in a modern information system that has very few equals in other parts of the world.
This is where the entrepreneurial spirit in America really took off, the American identity.
Inventors, searchers, revolutionaries whose spirits pulse through the city's history.
It is the 18th century's legacy to the 21st century Philadelphia.
This is the model city for what American independence is going to mean.
In the aftermath of the Paxton crisis, Benjamin Franklin will travel to London on a mission to solidify American ties to the crown. But Philadelphians have their own ideas, and the city's most brilliant diplomat will soon find himself caught between two powerful forces on a collision course.
Damn, that shit, wow. All right, so as crazy as Benjamin Franklin took over after William Penn and freaking Logan passed away. But the city was given, the city of Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania was given to William Penn. He didn't really take care of that shit either. All these motherfuckers coming over to take over something and they just abandon it. Don't that make them some slumlords? They just come here, take some land, and don't even take care of their property. Goddamn landlords. Slumlords. That's what they was. Some slum lords. Shit ain't changed, man. It's just been dressed up better. I'm gonna get a strike for that, y'all. Wait, stop. I don't want to get a strike. I don't want to get a strike. All right, listen. Before we get into the next video, all right, here's the thing, right? Franklin lived in the middle of all this, right? He wasn't separate from the contradictions, right? He was shaped by them. He saw, a city trying to balance ideals, right, with reality, justice with profit, peace with power. He saw leaders wrestling with their own beliefs while, how can I say, benefiting from systems that, harmed others. And over time, those contradictions forced Franklin, to evolve. He went from a man who once owned enslaved, people to someone who eventually became, how can I say, I cannot pronounce the word right. An abolitionist. Abolitionist. See, I hate saying the word. I have it up there. Man, hold on. Let me search the word real quick. And then I'm gonna put the definition for y'all down there. Hold on. 1 second. All right, here we go. Abolitionist. Man, that sounds retarded saying it so slow. Abolitionist. I hope I said it right. Where is my chat? Right here. I hate when I can't pronounce it. All right. So since I can't pronounce it, and I sound very stupid trying to say the word, let me give you all the definition. All right. A person who favors, all right, the abolition, all right, of a practice. How can I say institution, especially capital punishment or formerly slavery. I can never say this goddamn word. Ever. To save my life. Ever. That shit gets on my nerves. I hate when I can't pronounce it. I hate when I can't say something. But all right. Did we go through? I only went down on one. Let me see what I was supposed to go down on both. Oh shit, I got that shit on the screen. I'm tripping. All right, I should have went on both streams. Let's see. All right, there we go. But anyways, back on topic. My bad. I had a little, airhead moment right there. I can't pronounce a word, but hey, look, listen, fuck it. I know what the word means, but I just couldn't get it out. All right. But anyways, that transformation, right? It didn't happen because he woke up, enlightened one morning, right? It happened because Philadelphia, with all its beauty and all its, ugliness, pushed him to confront the truth. The city has always been a mirror, right? And Franklin had, to face what he saw in it. But while all this moral wrestling, was happening, Philadelphia was also facing a threat from outside, a violent, frontier conflict that was creeping towards the city. The peaceful charter Penn, all right? How can I say? He envisioned, how can I say? Penn envisioned what, how can I say? The Penn envisioned was about to be, tested in ways nobody expected, right? Like the Philly streets suddenly, how can I say? All right, I'll put it like this. The city that prided itself in order, right, and reason was staring down chaos. And Franklin, he stepped into that moment too. Right? He wasn't just a thinker, right? He was a doer. He organized defenses, all right? He negotiated, right? Mediated, and tried to keep the city from tearing itself apart. But I think it was too late, because when William Penn was in charge, that motherfucker just left at any given time, and motherfuckers was just in here making their own rules. Outlaws, right, and rebels together, like on some real shit. That's the part, people forget. Franklin wasn't just shaping Philadelphia. Philadelphia was shaping him through crises, right? Because of the bullshit that was already happening through with William Penn. Fuck, my head is all over the place. All right, and listen, that's why this chapter, of the great experiment hit so hard, because it shows us, that greatness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from struggle, right? Contradiction and growth. Franklin's spark, right, wasn't just intelligence. It was adaptivity, right? It was the ability to see, a broken system and try to fix it. It was the courage to evolve, to admit when he was wrong, right? To shift his belief as he learned more. And that's a lesson, right? Philly keeps teaching generation after generation. You don't have to start perfect, but you how can I say, better be willing to grow. You better be willing to face the truth when, it's uncomfortable. So as we go deeper into, this rabbit hole, I want y'all to think about what it means to live in a city built on both brilliance and contradiction. What it means to inherit a place shaped by people who were visionary and flawed at the same time. What it means to carry forward, right, the spark without repeating the shadows. Philadelphia has always been a city, of reinvention, resistance, and revelation, right? And if we're going to honor that legacy, we have to tell the whole story, right? The genius, the hypocrisy, the courage, the conflict, the evolution, right? Because that's how you build a future that's better than the past, right? And trust me, like, we're not done. The rabbit hole goes deeper, and Philly's history has more to say. So, like, listen, Philadelphia has a lot of history in it. A lot of history, not just the history we've been living, right? And a lot of people don't know the history of Philadelphia. Why is it that you can't enter certain places of Philadelphia? Why is it dangerous to even walk on the surface of certain certain streets in Philadelphia? All right, there's a reason why it says, danger, keep out, you can't come here. All right, but down the rabbit hole we go. All right, like we're gonna enter real quick. How can I say, the storm of Philadelphia? What happened between 1965 and 1970? All right, and I told y'all we're gonna listen this year. I want to learn about my city. You see where I'm coming from, and I'm not just gonna do this. All right, when I get a chance, I'll listen. I'm definitely doing this afterpay on this camera, all right? Because I want a nice little decent camera that I can just take out with me, all right? And the ones that I want cost around $1,000. I'm about to get back to photography. All right, and I'm gonna start exploring different parts of Philadelphia myself. That's content, all right, on some real shit. Like, I want to have some fun with this shit. Like, Philly is beautiful, but the people in fucking Philadelphia, listen, I don't get tired of telling people this, man. I love my city, but the people in my city, make me wake up every morning like Homer choking fucking Simpson. I mean, Homer Simpson choking Bart. What the fuck? Damn. Look, listen, I don't know what's up with me today. I am really discombobulated. All right, y'all. Listen, before I really dive into my commentary break about Philadelphia, let's talk about the next chapter, all right? In Philly's story, The Storm. And trust me, that title is not, how can I say, an exaggeration. From 1765 to 1790, Philadelphia wasn't just living through history. It was making it. This city was a, how can I say, a pressure cooker, and every new British tax was turning up the heat. People were fed up. The working class, the craftsmen, right? The how can I say, the merchants, even some of the wealthy elites. And when Philly gets fed up, it gets loud. Like, welcome to Philly, baby. Right? It gets bold and it gets ready to fight. This wasn't just political tension, right? It was a city on the edge of transformation, and everybody could feel the storm coming. You have to understand, Philadelphia wasn't, some small, quiet colonial town. All right, it was the largest, most diverse city in the colonies, a magnet for thinkers, rebels, immigrants, laborers, philosophers, and troublemakers. And it still is. Shit. And I'm going to continue to say it. History has not changed. All right. Listen, but anyways, back on topic. It was a place where ideas collided, where, debates spilled into the streets, where people weren't afraid to challenge authority. So when Britain kept slapping on tax after tax, Philly didn't just, how can I say, grumble. It mobilized. Right? The same diversity that made the city vibrant also made, how can I say, volatile. That's the word I'm looking for. Volatile. Like the wealthy and the working class were clashing, not just over money, but over what kind of future they wanted. And that tension, that's what made Philadelphia the perfect headquarters for revolution. Right? And listen, I told y'all, man, I don't care who doesn't like it. We're going to do a few of these. All right? Since I'm only going to be doing the lives only on the weekends, that's the best time for me. All right, I'm going to start scheduling these lives for Saturdays and Sundays. That's when I will go live. Other than that, on the weekdays, I might do a pop-up live. But the weekends is easier for me to go live. But listen, let's go back for this, right? They wasn't, how can I say, Philadelphia wasn't just perfect, a perfect headquarters, for revolution, right? How can I say? Let me put it like this. It was also for independence, all right? And once independence and war were declared, everything changed. Suddenly, the fight wasn't just against, it wasn't just against British, all right, the Britain. It was, how can I say, it was neighbor against neighbor. Revolutionaries started, hunting down loyalists, seeing them as, how can I say, traitors, all right? Threats, enemies hiding in plain sight. Imagine living in a city where you don't know if the person next door is your own, how can I say, is on your side or plotting against you. Shit ain't changed yet. Anyways, that's what Philly became, right? A city at war with itself, the peaceful charter pen dream of gone. The unity, right? Franklin tried to build, right? Shattered. The storm wasn't just political, it was personal, it was emotional, and it was survival. Oh shit. So let's dive. Oh, we got the beautiful Miss Chicago in the building. Blessings, Miss Chicago. How you doing this evening? So give me 1 second because we're gonna go into the next.
Into violence, Quakers.
My bad. We're about to go into the next chapter of Philadelphia. Why is it loading like this?
And must get the wealthy Quaker moderate.
My bad. We're going to get into the storm of Philadelphia. All right. What happened between 1965 to 1970. All right. So make sure I got this right. Oh, no. Premium. Switch to the premium channel. We're not doing this. We're not, no ads, no commercials. Here we go. Don't play me like that. Don't get small on me. I do not feel like rewinding this, John. Please. All right, there we go.
With Philadelphia's artisans feeling exploited by their colonial masters in London, they count on their longtime ally, Benjamin Franklin, to defend them from tyranny. But Franklin has other plans.
Franklin fully expects that the British Empire is going to become Philadelphia-centered. He envisions Parliament meeting in Philadelphia. He envisions the Tower of London being moved to a tower in Philadelphia.
He appears in his earliest portrait in all the appropriate clothing of an English gentleman with a wig.
Franklin in 1765 is an elite. He's one of the wealthiest men in America.
Philadelphia has no kings and queens.
But shit, Franklin went from being, you know, how can I say, a homeless boy, right? A runaway, because that's what he was, to becoming something in Philadelphia. All right. He made something out of nothing. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. All right. Besides the fact that I hate that he was a slave owner, I'm not gonna deny the fact that he made something out of nothing. All right, because when he came in, he didn't own slaves. He was a runaway. As fucked up as it sounds, like shit.
But it has its own royalty.
The commercial elite forms a tight ruling class. The Willings, the Powells, the Shippens, the Logans, the Whartons, they all develop a fortune.
The cultural elite do
Man, they all developed a fortune because they use slaves to make that money, man. And it's crazy, right? Because like I said, it doesn't matter what listen, these laws have been changed throughout the years, right? Throughout the centuries, yes. Right? And it's crazy that throughout these laws, y'all don't even peep. If y'all go look up the laws, the amendments, and all that stuff, right? Like the laws have switched up a little bit, but it's because of the policies that have been added to these laws on some real shit. But the laws haven't really changed once they're made. What changes a lot, though, that I do notice, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. And, you know, listen, I'm open-minded, all right? Y'all listen. Y'all could tell me, hey, shorty, you wrong. All right, it's like this, boom, boom, boom. But what I do notice that do change a lot is those policies, right? And I'm reading a lot on the laws. I'm about to start getting me the law encyclopedias on some real shit. But peep how all these people, right? They just came up by just taking over because what they had gunpowder, and I guess the city, the places that were taken over didn't have guns like that. Listen, we can go about this in so many ways.
not want to be thought of as the country cousins from 3,000 miles away. They wanted to be just as English as anyone living in the British Isles.
Dressed in the clothing of the London elite, they fill their houses with the most exquisite furniture and decoration, supplied by Philadelphia's craft artisans.
There was a terrific pool of artisans. The elite class could pick and choose among those craftsmen to get the kinds of goods that they wanted.
The upholsterer's apprentice, Betsy Griscom, learns that her future hinges on the demands of the upper class.
Who's buying upholstered furniture? The Shippens, the Whartons, the Willingses. The Griscom family goes back to the original founding of the city, just as the Shippens do.
Betsy Griscom was born into a family with a long tradition in the crafts. Her great-grandfather's a house carpenter. Her father is in the carpentry trade, and other family members are dressmakers.
Very few apprentices would have had the capital to go out and begin working as an independent craftsman.
Betsy Griscom is one of 17 children, so she has to work really hard to provide for her family. The British aren't making it any easier.
By the 1760s, Britain is in financial...
Hold on, let me rewind that back. Miss Chicago, that's fine. Listen, that's why I put that poetry out there. Anybody that wants to use my poetry, you're more than welcome. I'm not going to get mad at all. The poetry is meant to inspire and motivate people out there. So if y'all want to use it on y'all TikToks, y'all want to remix it, all right, y'all more than welcome. Listen, that's what it's out there for, all right? I will never get mad at somebody, reuses my poetry. No, that's why I put it out there. I want y'all to reuse it. I want y'all to remix it. I want y'all to do something with it. It's out there. All right, guys? Plus, y'all failed to realize I already got books. You see, I already got them on books. And by y'all doing what y'all do and y'all do that, man, y'all supporting me. So why would I get mad if y'all supporting and promoting my poetry out there? Never. Man, it's meant to inspire. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the support, Miss Chicago. Shout out to the beautiful Miss Chicago, yo. She be in her little scorpion bag. Get over here! On some real shit, man. Y'all gotta see, yo, man. She be putting everybody. She be getting her Catwoman bag, like, sit the fuck down and won't listen to what I'm saying right now. She don't play around. Shout out to the beautiful Miss Chicago, yo.
Financial distress from the French and Indian Wars, and they're trying to figure out how to pay for this. Protecting the colonies have gotten them into this debt, and money needs to come back out of for this.
I'm missing something.
By the 1760s,
Okay.
Britain is in financial distress from the French and Indian Wars, and they're trying to figure out how to pay for this. Protecting the colonies have gotten them into this debt, and money needs to come back out of the colonies.
To raise revenue, Parliament votes to impose a tax on all paper products sold in the colonies.
The stamp tax required that the British seal be on every piece of paper. So if you worked in upholstery like the Griscom family, you had to pay money to use the paper for your own products.
So between the 1760s and the 1790s is when Pennsylvania started using taxes. Well, the British came over. Isn't that a war that America, how many times did America lose against the British? Hold on. How many times did America lose against the British? And don't play with me, Gemini. Who defeated the empire in America? The British Empire. It was won decisively by the Continental Army, led by George Washington, with support from the Marquis de Lafayette and French army troops led by the commander. I can't even say that shit. And a French Navy by forced command by the commander the British Army commanded by. Wait, Philadelphia didn't beat the British alone. Pennsylvania didn't beat the British alone. They did it with George Washington. Yeah, we did talk about that earlier in the other video. They showed it. I'm tripping. See, it's a lot. Damn. All right, let's get back on it. I just needed to refresh my mind because I'm like, I know Pennsylvania. All right, it was the George Washington thing. All right.
Carpenters, dressmakers, silversmiths, brickmakers, all of them have their livelihoods on the line.
The Stamp Act, the Sugar Act, the Townsend Revenue Acts, all of these in succession anger merchants, get people talking about breaking away from British tyranny.
Betsy Griscom is drawn into street protests led by her fellow Quaker, Hannah Griffiths. Griffiths uses the power of rhetoric to rouse working class anger.
If the sons so degenerate the blessing despise, let the daughters of liberty nobly arise.
Hannah Griffiths, 1768.
Both Philadelphia's wealthy elite and its artisans put their faith in Ben Franklin, now the colony's chief envoy in London. But Franklin is inclined to please the British government.
Recommended a friend to be a stamp collector, thinking, well, no one likes taxes, but what are you going to do about it?
The artisans think he's one of them, and of course he is. He's a leather apron guy. In the view of other artisans, he owes them allegiance.
People were beginning to grow.
Damn, that Franklin fuck America. That Franklin fuck us over by doing that little peace treaty with the British. So we didn't have taxes until Benjamin Franklin decided to do that with the British.
Grumble that he was out of touch.
Was they scared?
Which caused problems.
Hold on, wait a minute. Was they scared? I thought America was the biggest bullies. What happened here?
Allegiance.
People were beginning to grumble that he was out of touch, which caused problems for Franklin's wife, Deborah, back home.
Angered by Franklin's betrayal, a mob heads for his house on Market Street, where Deborah Franklin waits, alone.
Deborah is in real danger. Here she is getting ready to defend a home that she and Benjamin Franklin had built.
She has no intention of going down in his bonfire.
She makes a decision to...
Damn. Why Deborah Franklin look like the fucking principal from Matilda. I know I'm not.
No intention of going down in his
She
bonfire.
took them all.
She makes it.
I'm not bashing nobody, right? Is that she really fucking reminded me of the principal from Matilda? What was her name? Damn, man, my head is all over the place right now. What was that evil principal's name from Matilda? The one that just bullied the students, man. She swung around that little girl by her braids and made her fly out the window and shit. That's when Matilda started showing her powers for real. Damn, I forgot her name. She made the little fat boy eat the cake and everything.
The decision to stand her ground, and she drives them away.
She wrote Benjamin a very
Just
impassioned
like
letter
her.
saying, you got to get with the program. You don't understand how unhappy people really are.
When the news comes back from America of this violent reaction, Franklin has to stop for a second and say, whoa, I need to rethink my position on this issue.
This is the moment when Franklin starts to realize that he's an American and not just a member of the British Empire.
A resolute.
But I have a question, right? Because it just crossed my mind now that he said this is the moment that Franklin realizes that he's an American. How did they become Americans? They wasn't really Americans, right? Until they just came and took over. You know what? I keep forgetting. Listen. We're gonna let it be. Because they took over, they made this America. So now we Americans, right? They decided to make it America, different from, how can I say, from Europe, London, and all these places over there.
Franklin cajoles the British government into backing down. Fearing widespread rebellion, they repeal the Stamp Act. But in London and in Philadelphia, the mistrust mounts.
While Philadelphia is experimenting with revolutionary possibility, over in England, Ben Franklin happens upon eloquent, fiery Thomas Paine.
Thomas Paine is known as a really fierce debater. He's gotten this reputation as someone you don't want to tangle with.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna give him a lot. How can I say? We're gonna give him a segment of his own. All right, we're gonna do one. He's gonna listen. We're gonna do a review and reaction of his life and what he did.
There's an immediate spark with Thomas Paine. Benjamin Franklin said, you need to go to Philadelphia.
The friction of ideas going on in Philadelphia makes it a magnet for more people to come to debate the issues that are swirling around both sides of the Atlantic.
In Boston, rampaging colonists destroy a shipment of British tea and tar and feather British customs officials.
What happens in Boston is the eruption of frustrations
we
into
already
acts of
know what that
violence. What Philadelphia does is took that mob impulse and turned it into a set of political principles.
Y'all see how the bull said it? I was saying it earlier. All of them came here, took over Pennsylvania, right? Named it Pennsylvania, right? They all act like mobs, mafia leaders and shit like that. I know I'm not.
Of violence. What Philadelphia does is took that mob impulse and turned it into a set of political principles.
3 of the city's most powerful politicians concoct a plan to solidify support against English tyranny. Joseph Reed, Thomas Mifflin, and Charles Thompson must get the wealthy Quaker moderate John Dickinson off dead center. They invite him to join them at the City Tavern.
4 men put on a little play. They act out a series of arguments, continuously pushing the conversation further and further towards revolution.
They stoke the public rage with wild, staged conversations.
The middle position keeps moving to the left, and it begins to engender support from all of these working men and women.
The Reeds, the Thompsons, the leadership of the community is encouraging people to say, I could be an American. That has resonance for me.
The next day, merchants boycott British goods, and artisans begin to arm themselves. In taverns and in the streets, Revolt builds, beat by beat.
It was the perfect time if you had a penchant for being a rabble-rouser. Thomas Paine arrives in Philadelphia as emotions are boiling up.
He meets Benjamin Rush at Aiken's bookstore. Here he is trying to figure out the next steps of his life. He runs into a firebrand.
Rush is a real radical. He had gone to school in Edinburgh where he'd learned medical theory and practice, but it also meant he had absorbed ideas of the Enlightenment and came home hating the British Crown.
Rush and Paine form an impassioned intellectual team, daring Philadelphians to follow them.
Paine finds the ability to explain to Americans what America is going to be and what an idiotic thing it would be to stand in the way of that future.
Like a gong sounded in the night comes Paine's Common Sense.
Printed by Robert Bell at 3rd and Walnut, Common Sense blazes out from the port across the colonies. In just 3 months, Bell sells more than 100,000 copies.
There is something absurd in supposing a continent to be perpetually governed by an island. Thomas Paine, 1776.
He asks the most destructive questions. What does a king have to do except make trouble and set nations at each other's throats?
We've had kings for 1,500 years. Common Sense amounts to a literary act of regis.
Don't I be telling y'all? Listen, some people think I'm crazy, right? I say all things lead back to the Vatican. But peep how a lot of shit leads back, right? From history. I'm not going to say all of history, right? From the 1700s, a lot of this bullshit that's been happening here in America leads back to the Queen and King in London. All right. I want y'all to remember that. All right. And then I want y'all to go out and do y'all research and y'all will figure out on your own why I'm saying that shit constantly. But maybe I could be tripping. All right. But hey, shit, all we could do is just research and learn, right?
When people read it, they can conceive of a future now without a king.
Common Sense is walking down the street in their hands, is being waved around in the coffee houses.
Paine is speaking directly to craftspeople. You are a free man and no one can rule over you.
No one, especially the conservative Pennsylvania government, a vestige of proprietary rule. Revolutionaries say it must go.
Philadelphians come up with the most radical interpretation of Paine's call for Republican government.
Both Paine and Franklin agree that in Pennsylvania, you're going to set down principles of democracy. The Pennsylvania Constitution of 1776 is the product of artisans and laborers.
Pennsylvania is...
And for those of y'all wondering, right, Pennsylvania was the first Washington, D.C. All right. And I'm not saying it was Washington, D.C. or it took over what Washington, D.C. was. All right. Over here was where everything started, was in Pennsylvania. Politics, everything. Right. Like, it's not pride or ego. You see where I'm coming from? It's just the facts. I'm not saying, oh, because it's my city. You see where I'm coming from? I'm from Philadelphia, and the state of Philadelphia is Pennsylvania. Nah, I took the time, all right, to learn the history, all right, how can I say, I'm taking the time to learn the history of the city that I'm not going to say from, because I was born in Puerto Rico, right, but I was raised here in Philadelphia as an infant, as a baby, all right, I wasn't even a year old yet, all right, I wasn't even months old, I was weeks old when my mom came to Philadelphia. Like Philadelphia is in my veins, all right, my veins, even though I'm not a sports fan, my veins bleed green, all right? I'm not a sports fan, but my veins, oh, damn, we got the beautiful Selena in the building. Shout out to Selena. Thank you for the super chat. I say super chat. What the fuck is a super chat? Thank you for the super chat. When streaming to a profile, you comment on show up unless the stream is public. Oh, somebody's talking to me on Facebook. I was wondering, like, why this comment just popped up? I forgot I was on Facebook. Damn. Oh, shit. Let me see what's being said on Facebook. I completely forgot about Facebook. That's because I don't be on that, John, and I forgot I shared the stream with Facebook, but ain't nobody right on this, John. Why y'all lying to me like that? What the fuck is wrong with y'all? But blessings to Selena. Make sure y'all go check out the beautiful Selena. All right, great conversations, great topics. All right, you will not be disappointed when you go check her. And we good. Thank you for asking. How was you and you doing, Selena? Damn, this John is playing with me, man. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Let me see. I don't got no poetry. I mean, no drops, but I definitely like putting my poetry up.
Yes. 1776 is the product of artisan democracy. The Pennsylvania Constitution of 1776 is the product of artisans and laborers.
Pennsylvania is converted from being the feudal property of the Penn family. It now becomes the Commonwealth.
If you pay taxes and you were male, you could vote, including free blacks. Your voice could be heard.
Pennsylvania belongs to its people.
A sailor or furniture carver now suddenly has a way to affect politics. People around the world could not believe that Pennsylvanians were actually doing it.
It is a vision of equality. It embodies the very spirit of the American Revolution.
They didn't see the need for an executive at all. The traditional elites, they looked upon this Constitution with horror.
Now, Americans from every colony have come to Philadelphia to debate independence.
Here comes Thomas Jefferson from Virginia to join them.
Jefferson was told, go work on this. Go take some time and start drafting these ideas that we're all debating.
Jefferson rents 2 rooms in a boarding house on the outskirts of town at 7th and Market. Here, amidst fields and woods, Jefferson writes a call to arms, the Declaration of Independence. He passes off a draft to Benjamin Franklin.
In that great line that comes in the preamble, Jefferson writes, "We hold these truths to be sacred, that all men are created equal." Benjamin Franklin scratches out the word sacred and writes in self-evident.
This is the action meant there couldn't be a more Philadelphia action to take.
In a city with a large population of free African Americans, it's self-evident that something is missing.
If all men are created equal, what are we doing with slavery?
How can you think about throwing off the shackles of a king if you don't then wrestle with the ideas of ending the institution of American enslavement?
Benjamin Rush pushes for a ban on the slave trade, but Southern delegates have too many votes, and Northern businessmen profit from slave labor. Jefferson removes the anti-slavery clause. Franklin and Rush agree to sign.
As the Declaration of Independence is read to this assembled crowd, and they hear.
So, the Declaration of Independence was meant to end slavery. But shit, all they did was transform it, because look, shit, now it's just, how can I say, turn into prisons, and could I even dare to put workforces out there? Shit, I don't know.
This litany of charges against George III. This group of young radicals are whipped into a frenzy.
As a response to this, a mob storms into the State House. They rip down the king's coat of arms.
They couldn't get their hands on the king himself. This was the next best thing.
They drag it through the streets, ironically ending in front of the London Coffee House, and they set it on fire.
England was far and away the most powerful force on the planet. You had to be an imbecile, you had to be weird to think that this straggling bunch of colonies could win a war.
Yet, within days, thousands crowd into makeshift barracks in the Northern Liberties.
Now, upper class families must decide which side they're going to be on.
That chasm, which
It's kind of like now, the rich, right, and the celebrities, the influencers with money, they got to pick a side, red or blue.
starts out as a small crack, widens, and becomes more and more painful to straddle, more and more dangerous to not decide.
Like a whirlwind, people who had been excluded from voting were now running the show.
Elizabeth Griscom has made her choice. She's thrown in her lot with the revolution. She's read out of her Quaker meeting, which means she's expelled. She then compounds her offense by marrying an Anglican.
She is disowned by her family, by her faith. She gave up everything.
In the wrong generation, boy, I tell you, lost in time's illusion.
Husband, John Ross, gives up his life. As a soldier guarding an armory, he is mortally wounded in an explosion. The widowed Betsy Ross continues on into the war.
An army had a huge need for textiles. Betsy Ross, with her skills as a seamstress, would have been invaluable.
Sewing up the cartridge caps that hold the powder that works the guns. That's a woman's job.
We know about the myth of making the first
That's the
American
woman's job. When she said that.
In reality, she made munitions. She made 60,000 musket cartridges.
Damn, so women back in the days were making ammo for the men in the army and shit like that. And they say women were doing only what the men were telling them. I mean, there was a lot of independent women before everything, you know, before they came up with, before everything got colonized on some real shit.
While Betsy's making munitions, the son of a convicted forger, 30-year-old painter Charles Wilson Peale uproots his family from Maryland.
His enterprise is larger than simply painting portraits for wealthy people who want their likenesses on the wall.
He changes that middle name to Wilson with 2 L's, as if he's put the word will into his name. That will push him into the revolution.
Peale has risen to a position of political prominence, 76.
The first day that Peale hears the militia drums parading through the street to Center Square, he says to himself, the moment is coming.
Here is a man that said, it is your duty to participate in this revolution for the sake of it.
In the State House, the portrait of King George III comes down, and Peale's portrait of George Washington goes up in its place.
Hold up. I just thought about something. If that Declaration of Independence was supposed to end slavery, why did slavery still continue to the point where, you know, all this happened with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and all that stuff? Like, hold up, wait a minute. I don't know why that just crossed my head. I had to pause it, right? This shit is crazy. And here's the part, right? Here's the part people don't talk about enough, right? Revolutions, right, aren't clean. Like, they're messy, chaotic, and full of contradictions. Philly was preaching liberty while still wrestling with, how can I say, inequality, right? It was fighting for freedom while still benefiting from systems that denied freedom to others. But that's what makes, you know, this chapter so important, because it shows how real change happens, not, you know, in perfect conditions, but in conflict with, not with, how can I say, everyone agreeing, but with people pushing, arguing, risking everything because they believe something better is possible. And Philly, well, you know, Philly has always been the kind of city where people, you know, will fight for what they believe in. Even if it means, you know, tearing down the old world brick by brick. Real shit. All right? Like, in the characters in this chapter, like, oh boy. They're icons for a reason. Benjamin Franklin, all right, older now, wiser, still shaping the city's destiny. Betsy Ross, all right, the woman whose hands stitched a symbol that would, you know, outlive, how can I say, empires. All right, Thomas Paine, the fire starter with a pen writing words that, you know, lit the fuse of revolution. Charles Wilson Peale, all right, the artist who captured the faces of new, you know, how can I say, of a new nation being born. These weren't just historical figures, right? They were Philadelphians, right? They were living in the same streets, breathing the same air, feeling the same fear and hope, that the city still carries today. Their actions didn't just define Philadelphia. They helped define the entire nation, right? The entire nation.
Peel joins the revolutionary cell called the Committee of Safety. Committee militants prowl the streets in search of wealthy, suspected loyalists.
They are not to be trusted. America is under threat. It cannot afford to have a fifth column that is going to betray them.
You want to know if they're going to be spies. You want to know if they're going to trade with the enemy.
Mobs will sack the houses of prominent loyalists. The property will be seized and sold off.
Peel has to bring the revolution home for them.
Night after night, they will go into the home of the loyalists, drag them out, and exile them to Virginia.
They are forcefully taking them as if they were the kings of the city.
That's the worst kind of persons that you want knocking on the door now that the shoe is on the other foot.
Now you have Philadelphia at war with itself.
Months after the Declaration of Independence, the British Army sacks and burns New York City. General George Washington brings his soldiers to Philadelphia to calm frightened residents.
Philadelphia would be a quick target. People were scrambling to prepare for the invasion that they knew was coming.
Philadelphians faced that terror. The danger of loss of life, loss of livelihood, loss of the 100 years of effort that has gone into building the city. Philadelphia could be the ruins of Troy.
British General William Howe approaches the city from the south, and at Brandywine, Washington's troops are wiped out. Howe's vast imperial army storms the city.
The English believe if you hold the capital, you hold the country.
The British Army marched down Chestnut Street just as Washington's army had marched down 8 months before. Loyalist Philadelphians viewed these men as liberators. Finally, order has been restored.
For the loyalist families, the country cousins, this becomes a moment when they can schmooze with the British officers. This is certainly the case for Peggy Shippen.
Peggy Shippen was a belle of the city of Philadelphia. It wasn't a party until Peggy Shippen arrived. Why shouldn't she snag herself one of these guys and go home with him to be a duchess?
British officers squat in patriot mansions, turning Philadelphia into a conqueror's playground.
British officers are literally living in Ben Franklin's house.
Franklin has been sent to Paris to convince the French court to ally with the Americans against their shared enemy, Britain.
Washington and his army are shivering and suffering out at Valley Forge. The question in everyone's mind is France going to come to our assistance?
With the morale of soldiers at its nadir and the noose tightening around the city, Thomas Paine gives voice to the American crisis.
These are the times that try men's souls. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered.
American soldiers who are reading this are saying, let's stand up for ourselves. This is right. And we're going to fight for this.
American passion is equaled only by British ambivalence.
Yo, I ain't gonna sit here and lie. Maybe I'm tripping, but between the Europeans and the British, they made America's bully. They made America bullies. My bad. Like I maybe I'm tripping. Am I tripping? They're the ones who created America as bullies. I'm listening to all this, and it's like London gave this big piece to fucking William Penn. It all started with that. But this piece didn't belong to him. It belonged to the indigenous that were here.
Mm-hmm. Just like Christopher.
I'm sitting here like, this shit is wild.
There's a lot of indigenous people here.
But William Penn at least made a treaty, a peaceful treaty. Everybody else that came after him, what was their names? I forgot, whatever. came in this job fighting, taking it by force. Even though the indigenous wasn't the only ones here, because they were immigrants on here, Swedish people.
It was a cesspool.
Yeah. This shit is wild.
A lot of more Italians.
No, not around that time. Oh yes, you're right.
Yes,
you're right.
it
It was
was.
Italians, indigenous people, and Africans.
Yeah, don't tell me. I know my history.
But they.
Yeah, the other people.
I was watching
here.
another video, but I can't play that video on here. They was breaking it down, and they were saying, right, they was like, the Moors don't consider themselves Africans.
They don't. Moorish people are, not to bring up movies, but if you remember the movie Robin Hood.
No, I've done a lot
but
of.
listen, remember the movie Robin Hood with Jamie Foxx in it?
Yeah.
He was like, I am Moor. I am people of Moors.
Uh-huh.
That was him talking about the tribe, the Moors. He never said I was African. He said I am Moor. But yet and still, the Moors speak Arabic, just like Muslims do. You see what I'm saying?
That's
yeah, see what I'm saying? It's deeper than what people say and think.
That's why I asked before, because all right, they was Africans at one point, but they split. I remember when we did the live, and I was like, wait a minute, like, okay, they all started as Africans, but split up into different tribes. And then somehow, some way, mixed and mingled with the Indians, which were not Indians, because the India already existed around that time. Those were the real Indians, the ones with the circles in their foreheads.
Yeah, see, I realize, right?
What they're called, the moles, my bad, not circles, the moles.
When it comes down to Indians, you got different types of Indians. You got Indians like the Cherokee.
But that's why I'm saying Americans were the ones that named the Indians Indians. They didn't consider themselves.
No, they consider themselves indigenous.
But they wasn't Indians. Indians were the people that came from India, the ones with the moles in their foreheads right here that they call I don't know what the fuck now.
No, they're not so much.
No, because I was reading it in history, and throughout all the books it says the same shit. How they stripped the indigenous
like the Hindu
and mixed them up. Yes, and
like
mixed them
Hindu.
up with the Indian people.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, wait, this shit is confusing as hell, but I get it.
Mm-hmm.
This shit is wild. But
see, what people say is Indian is actually Hindu. Because when you look at them, the Hinduans, they're the ones who came up with the henna. Like the henna tattoos and all that you see people get, the girls get.
Yeah.
Where do you think it come from? That's where it originates from, over there.
This shit is crazy.
Hey, baby, can I have a hug, my little fro child?
And strategic missteps.
The Philadelphia occupation proves to be a failure from the British point of view. It doesn't precipitate surrender. It simply costs them a fortune. The command comes down to the British Army to pack up, get back on the move.
A multi-day gala will be the last hurrah for Philadelphia's richest loyalists. Hundreds attend balls, jousting contests, and boat parades. The misconduct culminates at the abandoned Wharton estate just south of the city.
This is a celebration in hubris.
It was a huge blowout bash to celebrate William Howe's being called back to England, where he was going to testify on why he hadn't done anything for the past 7 months.
The day after the misconduct, undermanned American troops sneak past the depleted British at Barron Hill, back into Philadelphia.
We are still a tiny nation. Congress can barely afford to keep the army in the field. We are at the knife edge of failure.
The fate of the Continental Army lies in Benjamin Franklin's hands.
Franklin in France is a wheeling and dealing Philadelphia businessman. He's very pragmatic. He's got 20 years of experience working behind the scenes, talking about American interests.
Franklin spoke horrible French, but he was so animated and lively that people just fell in love with him.
He becomes the irresistible social prize of the season. They must have Franklin. Once he's in, they will listen to him.
What Franklin does is really, in a way, magical. He gets the French court on his side. The American side, with a hell of a lot of money.
The war takes a whole new course.
Yo, this is wild. Like, What's crazy is, right, he did a lot to help, but at the same time enslaved. It's kind of like, I have a hard time with this, right? Because it's kind of like, all right, I can't see him as a hero because he was still contradictory and hypocritical. All right. How you want freedom and still have slaves?
Franklin returns from France in 1785. 2 years after peace is signed, and 20 years after the Stamp Act protests had turned him into a villain. In Philadelphia, Charles Wilson Peale has created a portrait gallery dedicated to the heroes of the Revolution.
Yes.
A lifetime of sewing leaves Betsy Ross nearly blind. Thomas Paine has left to join French revolutionaries to bring down another king. Peggy Shippen marries the traitor Benedict Arnold and will die in exile in England.
That's crazy.
Benjamin Franklin.
That is crazy. Yo. The characters, listen, I'm gonna put it like this. Let's not pretend, they were superheroes, all right? They were human. They were flawed. They were navigating a world that was falling apart and being rebuilt at the same time. And that, that's what makes their stories powerful. Because Philly didn't need perfect people. It needed passionate ones. It needed people willing to take risks, to speak up, to challenge, the status quo. And that's exactly what these figures did. They stepped into the storm instead of running from it. They shaped the chaos into, instead of letting it, swallow them. And in doing so, they helped create a new identity for this city. One built on resilience, courage, and relentless determination. So before I get into my commentary, I want y'all to sit with this, all right? Philadelphia wasn't just the backdrop of, of the American Revolution. It was the engine, the heartbeat, the battleground, the birthplace of ideas that still shape this country today. And it wasn't pretty, right? It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't simple. It was a storm, and it still is, all right? And it's loud, messy, dangerous, right? Transformative. And the people who lived through it had to decide who they were, what they stood for, and what kind of future they were willing to fight for. That's the energy, right, that we're tapping into today. That's the legacy we're unpacking. And trust me, once we go down this rabbit hole, you're going to see Philly's past and present in a whole new light, right? That's why when people talk about Philadelphia, I was like, you just don't know my city, man. You don't know why I love my city so much.
In England.
Benjamin Franklin, one of the chief architects of the Pennsylvania Constitution, wants to harness the spirit of 1776. He wants to finish the unfinished business, to abolish slavery in America.
Here's a man who owns slaves, makes his fortune advertising for runaway slaves, and at the end of his life becomes president of the Pennsylvania Abolition Society.
In 1787, when the delegates arrived to write the national constitution, abolition seemed ever more distant because the wealthy class had already taken back control of the political process.
The experiment of 1776 might fall apart, and Franklin doesn't want that. Even though he's old, he decides he's going to participate in this constitutional convention and see if he can save the American experiment.
The abolition of slavery is kept out of the national constitution.
Franklin and a lot of the radicals of the period experienced the Constitution as a negation of the ideals of the Declaration of Independence.
But Franklin remains undaunted.
Philadelphia is a hotbed of Black activism. Free Black leaders articulate their grievances in language that the revolutionaries will understand. They want to end slavery, talk about equality.
Franklin's last public act is to write and sign a petition to Congress proposing the abolition of slavery.
Even at the end of his life, Franklin is looking forward. It turns out to be the single greatest challenge to the life of the Republic he did so much to create.
The failure of Franklin's petition will set Philadelphians at war with each other for decades. But At his death in April 1790, 20,000 come together to honor Philadelphia's most essential citizen.
At the end of the day, Benjamin Franklin pushes aside all the images, honors, and symbols, the myths, the legends. Doesn't even finish his own autobiography. Instead, he describes himself as Benjamin Franklin, printer.
Listen, all right, family. As we close out this chapter, of our journey down the rabbit hole, I want you to take a breath, right, and really sit with everything we just walked through. Philadelphia isn't just, a city with history. It is history, right? It is, how can I say, a living archive of struggle, brilliance, contradiction, and transformation. Every street, every neighborhood, every block carries the fingerprints of peoples who fought storms bigger than we can, imagine. And whether they came here in chains, whether they were free and then enslaved, whether they were, indigenous to this land longer before colonizers arrived, their stories are woven right into the DNA of this city. Their courage is the reason we're standing here today. And I need you, to feel this in your chest. We are their, how can I say, continuation, not their correction. We are the generation they dreamed of, but never got to see. We are the ones that, how can I say, we are the ones with freedom they prayed for. The voice that, they were denied. The choices they never had. We are not slaves. We are free, how can I say, descendants of enslaved people. Free descendants of free people who, were enslaved. Free descendants of survivors who, refused to disappear. And because of that, we carry a responsibility, not a burden, right? A responsibility, a calling, a purpose. Our ancestors didn't survive the storm so we could, create new storms amongst ourselves. They didn't endure change so we could, chain each other with violence, ego, and division. They didn't fight for freedom so we could waste ours. They didn't build community so we could tear it down. They didn't dream of liberation so we could settle for survival. We owe, how can I say, we owe them more than that, right? We owe ourselves more than that. We owe this city more than that. So as we move forward, right, not just in this series, right, but in our lives, I want you to remember that history is not built, right? It's not, how can I say, it's not behind us. It's beneath us. It's inside of us. It's guiding us. And it's, how can I say, it's reminding us that the power to choose differently, to heal instead of harm, to build instead of break, to unite instead of divide, to rise instead of, how can I say, repeat. We are not trapped in the past, right? We are shaped by it. And now it's our turn to shape what comes next. Philadelphia has always been a city of storms, but it's also a city of rebirth, a city of reinvention, a city of resilience, all right? And if we honor the people who came before us, if we honor the truth of their lives and the weight of their sacrifices, we can create a future worthy of their legacy, a future we don't just survive, the storm. We become the, how can I say, we become the calm after it, the clarity, the change, the spark, right? So I want to say thank you, for walking with me, for listening with your heart open, for being willing to, go deeper than the surface, right? Because this is only the beginning. The rabbit hole goes further and the truth gets richer, right? And together we're going to keep uncovering it, not just to learn history, but to transform, how can I say, the future. All right, guys. And with that all being said, man, I'm going to see y'all on my next slide, and we out.